After the real young master of the Tang family returned, everyone started to hate me. The true heir caused severe injuries to both my hands, making it impossible for me to play the piano ever again. The eldest Tang brother, who used to care for me in every possible way, said coldly, "Makoto suffered a lot out there. You only lost your ability to play the piano. Just think of it as helping him feel better." I devoted everything to making my biological sister a superstar, but she ungratefully said, "You tried so hard to win me over just to isolate Makoto, brother. I'll never recognize someone like you as my brother." Then the real young master fell down the stairs and framed me as the culprit. Even my childhood fiancée, whom I had protected and cared for all my life, believed him without hesitation. "I didn't expect you to be so jealous," she said bitterly. "I'm calling off our engagement." On the day my fiancé and the real young master got engaged, I actually thought about driving a truck straight into their ceremony and dying with them. But just as I started the engine, a madwoman suddenly ran in front of my car and threw down a basket. The engine stalled. I froze in place. Inside the basket was an abandoned baby girl. Half an hour later, joyful music echoed from the Tang family's grand hall, while I carried the baby into my car and drove straight to the high-speed train station. From that day on, the fake young master of the Tang family vanished from City A, just as everyone wished. I went far away to the southern market, raised the abandoned baby as my own daughter, and never contacted any of them again. What I didn't expect was that, 4 years later, they would all show up one by one, begging me to come home. Chapter 1. 4 years later, the first time I saw Sophia again was at the gate of the kindergarten. I had just picked up Emma, when a mother beside me suddenly leaned over and said, "Emma's dad. Look across the street, that woman looks just like that famous singer. What was her name again?" I followed the direction of her finger. "Sophia." The woman clapped her hands as she remembered. "Yes, Sophia." I looked away and said calmly, "Don't know her." She looked surprised. "You don't listen to music, Sophia? She's the most popular original singer these years, won tons of awards. And honestly, she kinda looks like you, those phoenix eyes." I smiled faintly, shook my head, and held Emma's hand as we walked on. "George Tang." A familiar voice called from behind. I ignored it and kept walking. "George Tang." Emma tilted her head. "Daddy, is that lady calling you? Why does she call you George Tang?" I smiled and said gently, "She's mistaken." But as we reached the parking lot and I was about to open the car door, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. I turned around, and there she was, Sophia, panting heavily. "George, you're actually still alive." Her voice was as sharp as ever, and yet, maybe because she had run too fast, there was a faint redness in her eyes. Chapter 2. I left Emma at the neighbor's house. As I came downstairs, Sophia curled her lips and said, "Why are you living in such a dump? Where's your real home? Let me go up and take a look." I shook my head. "There's no need for that." Back then, the real young master and I had been switched at birth. I lived as a Tang for 20 years, enjoying the life of luxury, while the real young master spent those same 20 years in my poor family with my biological sister, enduring hardship. 4 years ago, Sophia was the one who said that her only brother was Makoto. She also said, in person, that even though our blood relation couldn't be changed, pretending to be siblings with someone like me only made her feel disgusted. Afterward, I was expelled from the Tang family by Diego Tang, abandoned by my fiancée Willow, and blacklisted by the entire City A. When I had nowhere left to go, I once thought about seeking out my biological sister. That snowy night, I stood outside her company's building all night long, nearly freezing to death, but in the end, all I got from her was one sentence, that her greatest wish was that I had never been born. If you had never been born, Makoto wouldn't have been switched at birth, and he wouldn't have suffered so much. Brother, what a joke. Now that the Tang family doesn't want you, you're using blood ties to cling to me. When Makoto and I couldn't even afford to eat, where were you? I'll never acknowledge someone like you as my brother. That was when I finally understood, no matter how kind I had been to her. She hated me because of Makoto. Now, back in the present, her eyes still carried that same judgmental glare. She frowned and asked coldly, "That kid, where did she come from? Don't tell me you stole her." I was silent for a moment before answering. "She's a child I adopted." She twisted her lips into a mocking smile. "Why would you adopt a child for no reason? Don't tell me it's because Willow couldn't have children, and you thought adopting a girl would win her back. Are you still being a simp? How ridiculous, utterly pathetic." I cut her off. "She's my child. I never planned to go back to City A. And I never intended to use this child to compete with your brother for Willow. You don't need to worry, nor do you have to be so aggressive. As you said back then, aside from blood, we're strangers. I'm not interested in your life now. And I'd appreciate it if you stopped meddling in mine." She froze, speechless. "If there's nothing else," I said, turning away, "then please leave." "Wait, Suddenly, she grabbed my arm. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. You, I frowned. What do you want to say? Why did you really leave back then? I stared at her quietly. You were a rich young master, living comfortably. Was it really worth running away just because of a few harsh words? What kind of childish tantrum was that? If I hadn't run into you, how long did you plan to keep living like this? And these past 4 years? She paused for a long moment before finishing softly. How did you survive? Chapter 3. I looked at the corners of Sophia's eyes, slightly red again, probably from anger. She must have been shocked to see me alive, because my being alive meant I was a threat to Makoto's perfect little life. How did I survive? Someone gave up their life so I could keep mine, but there was no reason for me to tell her that. The old George Tang was a pampered young master raised by the Tang family. The man I am now, George Wang, no longer depends on anyone. Seeing me remain silent made her anxious. What? Cat got your tongue. Don't tell me that massive earthquake in southern Marquette a few years ago rattled your brain. You moved to some godforsaken place, serves you right if you got caught in a quake. Just then, a neighbor passed by and greeted me. Hey, little Wang. Haven't started dinner yet? I smiled and replied, I'm just about to. Sophia froze on the spot. I reminded her quietly, you should go, but she grabbed me tightly. You changed your last name, Wang. Whose name is that? It doesn't matter whose name it is. I brushed off her hand, speaking slowly and clearly. My name, my life, Sophia, none of it has anything to do with you. Chapter 4. Sophia was a celebrity. She couldn't possibly make a scene in public. I went upstairs, brought Emma home, and from the window in the stairwell, I saw Sophia still standing there, staring blankly at the building. She had never cared about me before. Maybe now her unease came only from not being used to my cold indifference. 4 years ago, when I learned about her dream of becoming a singer despite growing up poor, I spent nearly all my connections in City just to get her a chance to perform on stage. Even the agency she's with now, I personally found her the best one. She was my sister, and she had suffered a lot. I only ever wanted her to have a better life. But that goodwill was twisted by her. She thought I schemed to use her, to isolate Makoto, to make him miserable. Daddy, was that lady today your family? I was slightly taken aback, then smiled and patted Emma's head. No, sweetheart, why would you think that? I just guessed. You two look kind of alike. Family. Diego's face suddenly flashed through my mind. I used to believe that no matter the bloodline, Diego would always be my big brother. But 4 years ago, he had stood beside the fallen Makoto, looking at me with fury in his eyes. George, you've truly disappointed me. From this day forward, there's no place for you in the Tang family, and you're no brother of mine. My brother is only Makoto. I had clutched at his pant leg, begging, insisting that I hadn't pushed Makoto. But he kicked me away and walked off without even looking back. I shook my head and said to Emma, that person isn't Daddy's family. She looked a little downcast. I thought Daddy had other relatives besides Uncle. I smiled and tapped her nose gently. Daddy already has you and your uncle. That's enough. But Uncle's gone, she pouted. I miss him. I understood that feeling. But simple disappointment is still better than the agony of having something precious, then losing it again. The pain of depending on someone only to have them tear away from you. I'd been through that once. I wouldn't let my daughter experience it too. What I didn't expect was that, the very next day, I would see Diego again. Chapter 5. Emma came down with a fever in the middle of the night. I rushed her to the hospital. The viral infection was aggressive, and she needed to be hospitalized for treatment. I stayed awake the entire night by her bedside. By morning, the fever had finally broken, but she was weak and listless. I carried her on my back as we headed home, stopping by a street vendor to buy some meat and vegetables. After I paid, the bag of groceries was suddenly taken by a slender, familiar hand. I froze, then looked up, and through the hazy morning mist, I saw Diego's face. The lack of sleep left my mind blank. Instinctively, I blurted out, "Big brother," before realizing he had long forbidden me from calling him that. The Tang family was not something I could afford to offend. Back then, just to punish me for allegedly harming Makoto, Diego Tang had said one single sentence, and with that, the entire city blacklisted me. Mr. Tang, I quickly corrected myself. I was still trying to figure out why he was suddenly here in Southern Market. So I didn't notice the brief flicker of discomfort on his face. "Let me help you carry that," he said softly. "No need." I reached out to take the bag from him, but my body swayed. Emma whimpered faintly on my back. "Don't push yourself, George," he said quietly, holding my arm to steady me and stopping me from taking the bag back. "I'll take you and the child home." Chapter 6. The Tang parents died young. Back then, Diego was practically the one who raised me. When he still saw me as his little brother, he treated me well, better than anyone else ever did. Someone once asked him if he wasn't afraid that by spoiling me, I might get into trouble. He had only half smiled and said, "So what if he causes trouble? He's the young master of the Tang family, my little brother. If he stirs up the heavens, I'll still cover for him." But then Makoto came back. At first, Diego still said that I would always be his brother too. But every time Makoto provoked or humiliated me, Diego would only tell me to endure it. He suffered a lot. "George, just give way to him." He said we owed Makoto compensation. I didn't want to make things hard for him. He had been my big brother for over 20 years. I wanted to make him happy. So I gave way, and I endured, again and again, until the day he chose to believe Makoto's lies without question. That was when I realized I had treated him as my brother. But he no longer saw me as one. When he personally cast me into ruin and made me the target of everyone's hatred, I finally understood how foolish I had been. The drive was silent. It had been years since I'd last sat in a luxury car like this Maybach. I held Emma tightly in my arms, uncomfortable and wary, wondering why Diego had come all this way. Did Sophia tell him? Was he afraid I might hurt Makoto, so he came overnight to make sure? I didn't know. I couldn't figure it out. My head ached, and I only held Emma closer, never noticing the trace of longing in his gaze. "George." At the sound of his voice, I looked up. There were more wrinkles at the corners of his eyes now. He spoke slowly. "4 years ago, we all thought you," I interrupted softly, "thought I was dead." "I know. Honestly, you can keep thinking that if it makes things easier. I've never wanted to fight Makoto for anything. Everything that belonged to him was always his. There's nothing wrong with letting things return to their rightful owner. You don't have to worry. You don't have to guard against me. And you certainly didn't have to come here to check. I only want to live a peaceful life with my daughter. Oh, and she'll stay with me. She'll never go looking for Willow. I can swear on my life, I'll never use my daughter to interfere with Makoto and Willow's relationship. You can rest easy." I looked him straight in the eyes and repeated, "You really don't need to worry." He was stunned. I wasn't. "What then?" I said flatly. "You're afraid I'll use the Tang family name for something bad. You can relax, I won't. I changed my surname long ago." "George." He suddenly cut me off. His eyes were red. I came here to bring you home." Chapter 7. I couldn't understand what Diego was thinking. I hadn't been part of the Tang family for 4 years. It was he himself who had announced that to the world. So why would I go back? To be Makoto's punching bag again? And what was a man of his status doing following me back to a shabby 50-square-meter apartment? After settling Emma on the bed, I walked to the cabinet, took out a box of tea. But after a pause, I realized he probably wouldn't drink something that cheap. After some hesitation, I just handed him a bottle of mineral water. His gaze fell on my right hand, and his expression darkened with a bitterness I couldn't decipher. "Your fingers, are they any better?" I lowered my head. My right hand, the ring finger and pinky, could no longer move. It happened after Makoto returned to the Tang family. We were visiting one of the Tang factories together. He got curious and began talking with an engineer about a mechanical design. To prove his theory, he pressed the test activation button, and at that moment, my hand was right on the machine. Before the accident, I was a rising piano prodigy. That was the only thing I was ever better at than Makoto. I wasn't as talented or capable as him in anything else, but at least I had the piano. When he first came back to the Tang family, every time I practiced, he would say with an air of pity, "I've loved music since I was little. If I hadn't been switched at birth, I'd probably play the piano too. But after the accident, I could never perform again." I couldn't accept it at first. I fell apart for a long time. I always believed he had done it on purpose, and I couldn't help but hate him for taking away the only light I had. Until one day, he tried to end his life. After he was rescued, everything changed. I went from victim to villain. I still remember Diego coming back from the hospital that day, rubbing his forehead and saying to me, "It's just your hand, just 2 fingers. Did you really need to take his life over that? Even if you're useless, even if you're not my real brother. Didn't I say the Tang family would take care of you for life? Why did you have to go this far?" And Sophia, cold and emotionless, had added, "If we hadn't been switched, the one who could play piano would have been Makoto anyway. You're just giving back what you stole. How can you still act like the victim?" They both told me my fingers would never recover, that no amount of anger would change that. But later, at the celebration for Makoto's patent, ironically, the patent he earned using the machine that crushed my hand, I overheard the doctor talking to Diego. "I told you back then, if the young master had gone abroad for rehabilitation in time, his fingers could have recovered more than 90%. You never took him, did you? Now that it's been this long, recovery will be nearly impossible." Diego had replied coolly, "It's better if George doesn't play the piano anymore. Makoto always wanted to learn piano as a child. Seeing George unable to play will make him feel balanced. Anyway, even if George is useless, I'll still take care of him. Whether he can play or not doesn't matter. So that was it. My dream, my future, in his eyes, were nothing more than a tool to keep Makoto's heart at ease. When did I start fearing him? Probably from that very moment. I heard you're teaching music at an institute, he said suddenly. I froze for a second, then replied. I only teach beginners, little kids. Simple music doesn't require the ring finger or pinky to move. I never plan to return to the stage. I wouldn't dare risk upsetting Makoto again. I just need this job to support my daughter. The doctor said the damage is permanent. I'll never play well again in this life. So even with that, are you still not going to allow it? He looked startled and quickly said, George, that's not what I meant. But I couldn't hear another word. The old fury, the rage of a life destroyed, came flooding back. I couldn't lose this fragile piece again just because Makoto might be displeased. So I held up my trembling hand, showing him the stiff fingers, shouting, See, I can't play, I really can't. I've already given back everything the Tang family ever gave me. If you don't believe me, come and try bending them yourself, they don't move. I was your brother for years, can't you at least let me live my own life now? He looked panicked, rushing forward to grab my shoulders as I shook uncontrollably. George, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. This time, I'll protect you. Trust me, trust your brother. But how could I not be afraid? I had fought so hard to start over. A man named Luis had given his life so that Emma and I could live. I shoved Diego away hard, but after a sleepless night and an empty stomach, I couldn't match his strength. In the struggle, my vision suddenly went black, and I passed out cold. Chapter 8. I dreamed of Luis. He looked exactly as I remembered, standing in the small courtyard of the guest house at dawn, shaving by the water basin, tilting his head toward me with a grin. Hey, what's with the long face so early in the morning? There was a scar running across his cheek, giving him a fierce, intimidating look, but his voice was always warm. I scratched my head, embarrassed. Luis, Emma's surgery cost more than I expected. I've run out of money. About the rent, could I owe you a few months? Once I get paid, I'll make it up right away. He burst out laughing. That's it. You look like you're carrying the end of the world on your shoulders. Luis has plenty of houses, just short of people to liven them up. Don't worry about rent. Emma's condition, even if the surgery went well, still needs careful care afterward. So stop running around taking extra jobs for now. If you run out of money, well, you've still got your big brother here, haven't you? At first, he was just my landlord, a police officer who had retired early because of injuries and illness, but later, he became my brother, Emma's uncle, a man completely different from Diego. He looked rough and carefree. Yet his heart was more delicate than anyone's. He helped every tenant who ran into trouble. When I first met him, I was struggling to find a place to live, with a sick infant in my arms. Everyone else saw Emma's congenital illness as bad luck. Only he took us in without a word. He could have easily turned a blind eye. But he somehow noticed my depression, and kept finding small ways to pull me out of it. George, look at that kite you and Emma made, it's flying so high. George, you eaten yet? I made too many buns today. Come over and help me finish some. At first, I thought he was just a fool, but unlike Diego, who only knew how to throw money at problems, Luis was patient. He taught me gently when my bad habits from my old life surfaced, telling me what was right and what was wrong. When I found a new job, he'd be genuinely happy for me, using it as an excuse to drink a few extra beers, only to get scolded by me afterward, scratching his head like a child. He taught me confidence and independence. He taught me how to choose my own way of living. He used to tell me, George, trust me, there's no kind of day you can't get through. We were three people with no blood ties. Yet somehow, we became a family, until Emma turned 1. That year, a massive earthquake struck Southern Market. The quake triggered fires across the entire street where the guest house stood. My leg was crushed, and I couldn't get out. Luis pulled Emma and me to safety, then, without hesitation, ran back into the flames. I was lying on a stretcher, screaming for him not to go back. But he just smiled and said, George, I'm a police officer. At a time like this, I can't not go back in to save people. Don't worry, I'll be back. He always kept his promises, but not that time. He rescued more than a dozen people trapped inside. Then he went in one last time, and never came out again. I don't even have a single photo of him. He always said his scarred face looked bad and he hated cameras, but he took so many photos of Emma instead. Chapter 9. I woke up to the sound of voices arguing. We've been looking for him for 4 years, all 3 of us, and now that you've found him, you hide it from me. What's that supposed to mean? That voice. Willow. Then came Sophia's cold tone. And what right do you have to see him? Willow snapped back. We were engaged. He loved me. That alone gives me more right than either of you. Diego's voice cut through the air, sharp as ice. Engaged? Don't forget, you're now Makoto's fiancée. My two brothers are not merchandise for you to pick and choose from. Willow's voice rose in fury. Diego, do you really think you can control everything? If it weren't for you demanding that George be punished for forcing everyone in City A to turn against him, how could he have ever been driven away in the first place? Why did I agree to get engaged to Makoto? If you and Sophia hadn't insisted it was George who pushed Makoto down the stairs, why would I have lost faith in him? You think I don't know? Makoto only pretends to care for me, behind my back. He despises me for being unable to have children. He's not even 1/10 the man George is. Sophia gave a bitter laugh. Oh please, you're really blaming us for that. Willow, don't act innocent. You just went along with it. Can you honestly say you didn't grow tired of my brother back then? Didn't you fall for Makoto? And let's not forget, Makoto is the real Tang heir. Marrying him gave you access to the Tang and Sure family shares, didn't it? Now that George is back, you suddenly remember how good he was to you. Willow's voice dripped with disdain. And who are you to talk about family bonds? When he went to see you that winter night, you deliberately left him standing in the snow until he almost froze to death. If not for you, he never would have left in despair. So don't you dare pretend to care about him now. Sophia faltered, unable to defend herself, then muttered stubbornly. Anyway, I'm the one most qualified to be by his side. I'm his brother, Diego said icily. I'm the one who has that right. I'm taking George back to the Tang family. He and his child have nothing to do with either of you. Sophia flared up. Who gave you the right to take him back to the Tang family? You're the one who cut ties with him yourself. I'm his biological sister, his only blood relative. Willow let out a scornful laugh. And you still dare to talk about blood ties? You ungrateful brat. He begged everyone in City A to give you a chance to perform. And when you finally made it big, the first person you thanked was Makoto. Did you even mention George's name once? He adopted a daughter because he knew I loved children. We were the real family. Enough. A nurse burst in, scowling. The patient needs rest. Only one immediate family member can stay. I'm his brother, Diego declared at once. I'm his sister, Sophia quickly added. The nurse frowned, glancing between them. Mr. Tang, Miss Ito. You're Mr. Wang's brother and sister. Awkward silence filled the room. Then Willow suddenly spoke up. I'm his fiancée. The nurse sighed impatiently. Fine, then you stay. The other two, out. Chapter 10. When I opened my eyes again, I really did see Willow. She was sitting by my bedside, motionless, her eyes red and filled with tears. Once upon a time, I truly loved this childhood sweetheart, my fiancée. Even after she was diagnosed with infertility early on, I never once thought of leaving her. 4 years ago, when my hand was unbandaged and I was discharged from the hospital, Diego and Sophia were both with Makoto. Only Willow came to see me. She was the only one who didn't accuse me. George, you fool, I'm here. Her voice back then had been like a lifeline. I was drowning, and she was the only thing keeping me afloat. But that same night, half asleep, I woke to the sound of her voice, whispering softly into her phone. Makoto, please cooperate with the doctor. Okay, otherwise, there'll be scars on your wrist. Of course I know. You've suffered. George just isn't very mature sometimes. I woke up instantly. We argued. I demanded to know why she was secretly calling Makoto. At first, she tried to calm me down, but soon, her patience snapped. George, the world doesn't revolve around you. Can't you be a little more like Makoto, someone people actually like? And anyway, if we hadn't been switched, he was supposed to be my fiancé in the first place. The moment the words left her mouth, she seemed to realize what she'd just said. She reached out to hold me, but I shoved her away. We stopped talking after that, a cold war that froze everything between us. Maybe she had long grown tired of our quiet, steady love, and when someone like Makoto, so different from me, appeared in her life, it was like a stone dropped into still water, ripples spreading through her heart. Later, when Makoto framed me for pushing him down the stairs, she stood by his side, along with Diego and Sophia. The betrayal of those closest to me only convinced the rest of City A that I was guilty. They said I was a fake, a mountain chicken pretending to be a phoenix, a Tang family imposter, ungrateful for their kindness, and now trying to harm the real heir. That's what they called me. I became the rat everyone wanted to crush. No matter how many times I called or texted Willow, she never replied. When I finally found her and, in desperation, asked why she didn't believe me, she stayed silent for a long while before saying softly, George, you've always been jealous of Makoto, haven't you? She told me to go apologize. Furious, I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. Not long after, the engagement was changed. The one marrying Willow became Makoto, and I, blinded by grief and hatred, became someone even I no longer recognized. I couldn't understand why Willow's love had changed. Why Diego didn't trust me. Why Sophia couldn't stand me. I sank deeper and deeper into a whirlpool of emotions. Trapped, suffocating, unable to escape. It wasn't until much later, after meeting Luis, that I finally realized I had been suffering from depression all along. Chapter 11. Willow sat there, eyes red, staring at me. "George, I'm here," she whispered. "This time, I'll never leave you again." She gently took my cold hand into hers, her voice trembling. "What happened back then? We misunderstood you. It wasn't your fault." Makoto fell down the stairs on his own. I was blind. George, I didn't see what a manipulative bastard he really was. I let out a faint laugh. "So what now, Willow? You tried things with Makoto, found out it didn't work, and decided to come back to your ex-fiancé." Her eyes widened in surprise. "No, that's not it. I'm not going to marry him." "When you left, I realized. It's always been you. I love you, George. I won't ever let them hurt you again. Let's go back to City A. Let's get married. Give Emma a complete family." I froze, then suddenly bolted upright. "My daughter, where is she?" She quickly pressed my shoulder down. "Don't worry. Emma's next door." I looked into her eyes. Once, I was completely lost in those beautiful eyes, so much that I would have given her my life. "Willow," I said quietly, "Emma is my daughter, just mine." She hesitated for a moment, then looked up. "George, I know you resent me. What happened back then?" I was confused. I thought what I felt for Makoto was love. But it was just pity. "You're the one I truly love." "I don't love you." My tone was flat and cold. She blinked, stunned. "You don't love me? Then why did you adopt a daughter?" "Because I once said I wanted one, didn't you?" "George, stop lying to yourself. You loved me. You still love me." I suddenly smiled. "Willow, where do you get that kind of confidence? That I couldn't live without you? And what makes you think that after 4 years? All it takes is one word from you for me to fall at your feet again." She froze. "I didn't adopt Emma because of you," I said slowly. "I adopted her because I wanted a family, someone who was truly mine. In these 4 years, Willow, I never once thought of you." "That's impossible," she cried, clutching my hand. "I've thought of you every single day for 4 years. When people said you were dead, I refused to believe it. I kept searching for you. We loved each other, George. We grew up together. All those memories, all those beautiful years, those memories." I cut her off sharply. "Only make me sick now." Her face went pale. Tears welled up again. "Why, you're just angry." "You don't mean that. Get out," I shouted. "Luis once told me, never argue with people who've lost their minds." She stared at me in disbelief. What did you just say? You were never like this before." She was right. The old George, he loved her, cherished her, and gave her his whole heart. But I was no longer that George. Our argument must have drawn attention, because soon the door burst open. Diego and Sophia rushed into the room. "George, come back with me," Diego said firmly. "I'll keep you safe this time, brother," Sophia pleaded. "Come with me. We're real family, we belong together." I looked at the three of them quietly. Once, every single one of them had thrown me into the abyss, and now, here they were, offering me pity, offering me salvation. "I once had an older brother," I said softly. They all fell silent, and in Diego's eyes, for a fleeting moment, I saw a trace of hope. "He told me," I continued, "that I didn't need to depend on anyone, that I could shine on my own." Diego's face darkened instantly, because he had never said that to me. Only Luis had. "So stop pretending to be my saviors," I said, my voice cold but steady. "I'm George, and I don't need any of you anymore." Chapter 12. In the days that followed, the three of them, Diego, Sophia, and Willow, all went to obsessive lengths investigating anyone around me with the surname Wang. But Luis Wang's story was no secret. His heroic rescue had made the news. He was celebrated as a city hero, and every year on his death anniversary, those he had saved would visit his grave to pay their respects. Sophia began showing up often at my apartment complex. I never let her in, so she would just stand downstairs, leaving gifts at the door for Emma and me. Her tone softened a lot. She even started calling me brother again. She somehow found out that Emma liked kites and once brought us a handmade swallow kite. Diego came, too, when I refused to see him. He sent housekeepers and assistants instead. He even tried to buy me a bigger house. He still believed money could fix everything. It was the same way he had cared for me in the past. But I refused it all. The most persistent one was Willow. She simply moved into the same neighborhood. Every day, she came by, trying to make Emma call her mom. After I finally lost my temper, she stopped pushing, and only watched us from a distance, eyes red, day after day. Soon, it was Emma's birthday. She had many friends in the neighborhood and had been looking forward to her 4th birthday party for weeks. And of course, Diego, Sophia, and Willow showed up, uninvited, since other neighbors and children were there. I didn't want to ruin Emma's day. So I didn't send them away. I could tell they were pleasantly surprised, but right before the food was served, a laughing male voice came from the doorway. Well, am I late to the party? The 3 faces in the room froze instantly. I turned around. Makoto was standing there. Chapter 13. Makoto held an expensive gift box in one hand. Dressed head to toe in custom-tailored luxury. Uncle, you have to take off your shoes before coming in, Emma said softly, her little voice polite and clear. Makoto raised an eyebrow. Oh, little girl, your dad's my good brother. The tiles in your house probably don't even cost as much as my shoes, so I think I'll keep them on. Yeah. Right, George? For years hadn't changed him at all. He was still as arrogant as ever. I said calmly, Makoto, it's my daughter's birthday today. I know, he said cheerfully, sitting himself down without invitation. Otherwise, why would my brother, sister, and fiancé all be here at your place, right? The room went quiet. The neighbors looked at each other in confusion. Makoto covered his mouth dramatically and laughed. Oh no, they don't know, do they? George Tang, oh wait, you go by George Wang now, right? Using a kid to seduce my fiancé. I have to hand it to you, you've still got the same dirty tricks. You stole my identity for over 20 years. And you're still not satisfied. Now you're using a child to steal my family and my fiancé too. Makoto, are you insane? Willow stood up, shouting. Who told you to come here? Leave, now. What's the matter? Afraid I'll expose your secrets? He sneered. No, I'll say it. People like him, back in the old days, they'd have been paraded through the streets for public shame. Diego rose, grabbed his arm, and said sternly, Makoto, enough. Come home with me. Stop this nonsense. I'm not going anywhere. Makoto jerked free, shouting. Are you even my brother anymore? He's not your real sibling. Why are you taking his side? Have you forgotten all the suffering I went through? Sophia stepped forward too, trying to calm him. What are you doing? It's Emma's birthday. You're all insane, Makoto screamed, cutting her off. I'm Diego's real brother. I'm Willow's real fiancé. I'm the one who grew up with Sophia for over 20 years. And now all 3 of you, how dare you betray me like this? Emma was terrified. She clung to me, trembling. I covered her ears tightly and lifted her into my arms, carrying her back to her bedroom. Chapter 14. Emma, stay in your room and wait for Daddy to come back. Okay. She nodded, her eyes wide and frightened. Daddy, that uncle is scary. He's bad. I brushed her hair gently and stood up, closing the door behind me. By the time I returned to the living room, most of the neighbors had already left. Only Makoto, Diego, Sophia, and Willow remained. Makoto's perfectly styled hair was now a mess. His eyes burned with hatred as he glared at me. George, he spat. You think you've won, don't you? You must be proud, making them remember you, making them look for you all these years. I've never seen anyone so shameless. You're an imposter. What right do you have to even speak to them again? Makoto, that's enough. Diego's whole body trembled. How long are you going to keep this up? Willow snapped, grabbing his arm. Let's go. Let go of me. He shoved her aside and pointed at Sophia. Sophia, we've been through everything together, 20 years of it, and you've only known him for a few. How could you betray me too? Sophia turned her face away, her voice shaking. Makoto, you can't have everything. You were drunk that night, you admitted it yourself. You hurt George's hand on purpose so he couldn't play the piano. You faked that suicide attempt for sympathy, and later, you staged that fall down the stairs to frame him, all to drive him out of the Tang family. You hate him because you think he stole your life, but he's innocent. Makoto, being switched at birth wasn't his fault. Makoto's face twisted in rage. So it's my fault then. Am I not innocent too? Everything was supposed to be mine. I just took back what belonged to me. What's wrong with restoring the way things should have been? Then he pointed at me, shouting. You all think he's so innocent, but he's not. He faked his death. He adopted that kid just to win your sympathy. He's pretending to be pitiful, pretending to have changed, but he just wants back into the Tang family. He wants to replace me again, and you're all too blind to see it. Enough, Diego barked, his voice cracking with anger. If I had known that all my efforts to make up for your suffering would turn you into this, I'd rather. He stopped himself mid-sentence, but the damage was done. Makoto stared at him, stunned. What did you just say? Then he turned towards Sophia and Willow, his laugh breaking into something wild and bitter. So that's it. You all feel the same way, don't you? You think I should have stayed lost, that I shouldn't have come back. How could you? How could all of you do this to me? He looked deranged, his words dissolving into incoherent muttering. I stepped forward. There had been countless times in the past when I'd lost to him, when everyone told me, George, what you have was never yours to begin with. He suffered so much, you should yield to him. But this time, they all turned to me instead, and in their eyes, there was fear for me. Diego said cautiously. George, take Emma and leave first. Don't worry, your brother will handle this. I shook my head slowly, then I walked toward Makoto. The time for avoidance was over. This hatred, this endless cycle between us, it had to end. I raised my fist, and then, bang. He froze, clutching his cheek, eyes wide in disbelief. You actually hit me. I met his gaze calmly. Makoto, the only reason I ever endured your cruelty was because I really did live under your name for more than 20 years. When I learned how hard the Ito family had it, how you and Sophia struggled in poverty, I felt guilty. I thought I'd stolen your life, your happiness. But 4 years ago, I gave everything back to you. I took your name. You took my hands. We're even. I pointed at the others. They, Diego, Sophia, and Willow, they're yours. Your brother, your sister, your fiancée. I never wanted to fight you for them. I never cared to. But today, I paused, my voice hardening. You came into my home. You terrified my daughter. And that. I stepped closer, eyes locked on his. I will never forgive. I raised my hand again, and struck his right cheek with another punch. His head snapped to the side, blood welling at the corner of his mouth. These 2 hits, I said evenly, are for my daughter. Whatever hatred exists between you four, I want no part of it anymore. But if you ever do anything that hurts her again, I stepped forward, voice dropping to a low growl. I'll fight you to the death. He stared at me, stunned, before whipping his head toward the others. Did you see that? He hit me, right in front of you. This is who he really is, this vicious fraud. And you still care about him, you still like him. He screamed hysterically, his voice echoing off the walls. You're all insane. Can't you see? This is the real George, this is what he's always been. But the room fell silent. No one spoke. You idiots, he shouted, eyes bloodshot. You'll regret this. Then, in a blind rage, he lunged toward the door, but his foot slipped. There was a sharp thud, followed by the sickening sound of a body tumbling down the stairs. A moment later, the air filled with his groans of pain from below. But this time, none of them moved. Diego, Sophia, and Willow just stood there, frozen, eyes fixed on me. I sighed. He's hurt. You should go check on him. Still, they didn't move. Finally, Willow whispered, George, we didn't know he'd come here. Yes, Sophia echoed weakly. We didn't know. It's fine, I said calmly. Actually, this just makes it easier to say what I've been holding in. Willow's face turned pale. She reached out, panic flashing in her eyes. No. George, don't, please, don't say it. I shook my head and looked at them quietly. I, George Wang, no longer have a Tang family brother, nor an Ito family sister, nor a Liu family fiancé. My life now is good, better than it ever was before. I don't need your pity, and I don't need your salvation, your guilt, your love, whatever it is that brought you here. It only disturbs my peace and disrupts the life I've built. I took a breath, my voice firm but steady. The only family I have in this world is my daughter, Emma, and my brother, Luis. Diego opened his mouth, his voice trembling. But George, he's gone. Luis is dead. Wouldn't he want you to have someone to help you, instead of struggling alone as a single father? I shook my head slowly. You're wrong. What Luis taught me was independence. So don't worry about me. I'm not struggling. I'm freer, stronger, and happier than I've ever been. Sophia suddenly began to cry. But, we finally found you, she sobbed. And now you don't want us anymore. I turned to the window. Outside, the sky was a clear, endless blue. Yes, this time, it was me who didn't want them. Chapter 15. I believed I had made myself perfectly clear, yet the 3 of them still refused to leave. After the birthday party, they kept coming over, trying to persuade me to change my mind and return with them to City A. Makoto, however, didn't come again. He had actually broken his leg this time. The neighbors couldn't help but gossip, so I handed in my resignation, planning to take my child to another city to live. The principal of the institution was reluctant to let me go. Mr. Wang, you're still young, but your ratings from the parents are the highest. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? I shook my head. I'm already very grateful that you gave me a chance back then, even though my right hand is disabled. But for my daughter's sake, I have to change the environment. He thought for a moment, then suddenly asked, would you like to go to City C? It's by the sea, the climate is mild, and children really like it. I'm planning to open a branch there. Would you be willing to serve as the head of teaching? Honestly, I'd hate to lose someone as talented as you. I agreed. The day before leaving, Diego came to see me. "George, you don't have to move to another city just to avoid us." I smiled and asked, "Then can you stop showing up in front of me?" He fell silent for a long time, lowering his head in pain. If your brother still wants to do something for you, would you accept it?" Holding Emma's hand, I smiled faintly. "Thank you, Mr. Tang, but there's no need." Emma looked up and asked, "Uncle, do you still have something to do?" "We're going to visit my uncle Luis." His face froze. "Yes, we were going to Luis's grave." I brought several kinds of beer and sat there for a long time. I told him that I was moving to City C, that I was improving little by little, that my work had been recognized, and that Emma was growing up well. He would definitely be proud of me. And now, I thought, he could finally drink as much as he wanted without worrying about his illness getting worse. The next day, I took Emma to the airport. On the large screen in the terminal, I saw an interview with Sophia. I actually want to thank my real brother the most. Back when I was just an amateur singer, no company wanted to sign me. It was my brother who kept helping and encouraging me, who made me who I am today. But later, I didn't manage to repay him properly. I want to tell him I'm sorry. Emma pointed at Sophia and said, "Daddy, that lady looks a bit like you." I patted her head and said softly, "Let's board." After arriving in City C, my life gradually got back on track. I worked hard, lived earnestly, and 6 months later, I was promoted to principal of the branch school. Because the students liked me, they uploaded some of my teaching clips online. And soon, old videos of my performances from years ago were also dug up. Some people wondered why I no longer played the piano. Then, someone revealed the truth, that Makoto had caused the injury that made it impossible for me to play again. For a while, the name Makoto became synonymous with cruelty on the internet, and he was completely ostracized by the entire social circle of City A. The Tang family stocks were implicated, suffering heavy losses. Someone also found Sophia's previous apology video and exposed that I was the older brother she had mentioned. The internet was abuzz with mixed emotions, and Sophia announced that she would be stepping away from the music scene for a while due to poor mental state. A year later, I took my students onto the stage of an international competition, becoming a recognized music mentor. It's true, I could no longer perform complex compositions, but that didn't stop me from shining in my own way. Willow still came by often. She would leave gifts for Emma at the door and watch us from a distance. I found it exasperating, but since she didn't interfere with our lives, I couldn't be bothered to drive her away. One day, I saw Diego again. He looked much older. He handed me a key. "I know you've been saving up to restore Luis's old courtyard," he said. "I've already rebuilt it. Don't refuse it, just think of it as your brother making amends. You like that place, right? Go visit it whenever you want." And he hesitated before continuing. "The arranged marriage between the Liu and Tang families has officially been cancelled. Willow didn't get any shares. You know her brother never liked her. She can't do anything on her own. She's probably going to have a hard life ahead. As for Makoto, I've sent him away. He's in no condition to live on his own and will need long-term psychiatric treatment. I restored your room to how it used to be. If you ever want to come home, it's always there for you." I shook my head. "Thank you, but I'm not going back to the Tang family." He didn't insist, only said softly, "I'll always keep that room for you." During the summer vacation, I took Emma back to the southern city and went to Luis's courtyard. Standing at the gate, it felt as if time had turned back 5 years, to an ordinary morning. Under the jujube tree in the yard, Luis had held up the kite he had just finished painting, smiling brightly. "Try it, George. As long as you believe, it can fly high." And now, I truly had flown high. I picked Emma up and gently pushed open the door. "Brother," I whispered, "I'm home."